Correct.
Will I be correct if I say you are being compensated for your testimony today?
Not that I know of, ma'am. I did not, arrangements were not made. I did not give an answer that I would be compensated. No, there was a fleeting mention of possibility, and so no, I no intention to request money for this testimony.
About your report? Any compensation about your report?
Just repeat that, ma'am. Sorry.
Are you going to be compensated? Or are you compensated already for your report?
Okay, so I will put it on record, ma'am. I will not submit an invoice for my testimony again. There was no agreement made in terms of compensation. That was barely discussed. It was a fleeting reference at the outset of the conversation. But I want to make it clear, I will not be compensated for this. I will not submit an invoice for my service to this. So the answer is no, I will not be compensated for this.
In cases of this nature, you primarily give evidence on behalf of prosecution and all government sectors. Will I be correct to say that?
Ma'am, I just want to repeat that. So you are asking if you
Okay.
can just repeat the question, ma'am. There's a little bit of an echo. If you could just repeat that, please.
I'll do that, Doc, with pleasure. You primarily testify for prosecution and all government sectors in matters of this nature. Is that correct?
Well, I have the previous occasions when I've provided testimony, I was approached by the prosecutor on behalf of the state to provide evidence. That's correct.
Who asked you to prepare a report in this matter?
Okay, ma'am, another breakup there. I'm sorry, can you just repeat that?
Doc, who approached you and requested that you must prepare a report in this matter?
Sure. Well, I was approached by Advocate Swanepoel, so, and yes, and I responded accordingly.
Was this the first time you received a request of this nature from Ms. Swanepoel?
That is, to the best of my knowledge, yes. I have previously worked as a police investigator where Mrs. Swanepoel and I have worked together on matters of sexual offences, but with regards to a matter where Advocate Swanepoel is a prosecutor and I'm asked as a non-member of the South African Police Services to come in and provide this kind of evidence. This is the first time with Ms. Swanepoel. That's correct.
Thank you very much, Doc. You can therefore safely say that you know Ms. Swanepoel before the request of the report in this matter.
Oh, I absolutely do. I know Ms. Swanepoel. Ms. Swanepoel is part of she's just been a phenomenal leader in the space on all things human trafficking. Everybody knows Ms. Swanepoel in the human trafficking space. She's done phenomenal work in prosecuting trafficking matters. She's an incredible source of knowledge. She's well respected for her integrity and just subject matter knowledge and institutional knowledge for working in this space over a very long period of time. So yes, I definitely knew Ms. Advocate Swanepoel before this matter.
Thank you, Doc, for that profile, although I didn't ask for it.
One thing about Mkabayi of Mkabayi Associates is, of course, she represents accused number 2, Steffi Van Ryan, who has been nonchalant throughout the whole case. And we heard the probation officer say he is indifferent, he doesn't care, he thinks the judge is biased. The audacity. But not only that, he says the police lied about him, as well as he is innocent, and quite frankly, he doesn't give a damn what happened to Joshlin. Those are not my words, okay? Those are Steffi's words. But one thing about Mkabayi, she's still representing and fighting hard for her client. We here on the stand right now is the expert doctor. He's an expert in human trafficking. He's presently in the States. He joined in at about 3 a.m. in the US of A. He joined in via video conference call, Teams, Microsoft Teams. And he was quite a sharp man for that late at night. Okay, he was very much alert on top of it. He broke down this whole human trafficking and how devastating it is. He also mentioned that his research shows that human trafficking is on the rise in South Africa. That is absolutely heartbreaking, especially since Joshlin still has not been found. That is the critical question. I think it's the highest question beyond what sentence is the Three Musketeers going to get. No. I think the big thing that everyone wants to know is what exactly happened to Joshlin. And I think that will give closure. But what it's doing now, especially for that community, is they are unsure, they are angry, they are enraged. They don't know if their own children will be next. But hearing that human trafficking is on the rise, for me, that's a cautionary statement and that people should take it seriously. But let's, so what happens here? Mkabayi of Mkabayi Associates asks the doctor, Dr. Marcel Van de Waard. I'll do a full video on his profile, but I'll do that in a separate video, okay? But what does he do? Mkabayi asked him if it was his first time to get a request from Swanepoel, okay? Lead prosecutor Swanepoel, Zelda Swanepoel, and he says, yes, it was my first time. Then Mkabayi proceeds to ask, you can say you do know Swanepoel before you got this request because they had worked previously before, but not on a reporting basis. And he gives Dr. Zelda Swanepoel this glowing profile, okay, a glowing review of how they work together, how she's well known, how she's an advocate for human trafficking and the great work that she has done. And when he was done, Mkabayi says, thank you so much, doctor, for that profile, but I didn't ask you for it. Oh my goodness, Mkabayi. Mkabayi is on fire, okay? She is on fire. She is still working hard for Steffi. We know that Kelly thinks that her lawyer is incompetent. But let's continue listening on and see where Mkabayi goes with this cross-examination. Where is she going? Because she does try to hint that he was being compensated. So therefore, when you're compensated, you kind of say the right things for the state. But he says, I'm not being compensated. She pushes further and he says, I'm not even going to invoice after this. So I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, this is out of my goodwill. I want to do this. So let's continue listening on. I'll be back with the rest of my commentary. Make sure to drop that like. Thank you.
Your background is primarily academic. I can repeat the question. Your background is primarily academic.
I would say everything but primary academic, ma'am. Everything but. I'm more than happy to explicate that if you would like me to. But if you've received a copy of my CV, academia is but one part of it. So what I do now, and what I constantly do, and that's also the reason I have included a kind of a summary essence of the people in the field currently, is constantly checking and rechecking and verifying. But to your assertion that it is primarily academic, it started off in the police. After that, that was for 10 years, and then for 10 years I was in academia, and at the same time working with the National Freedom Network, part-time, gathering information, intelligence, helping people compile case buckets. So it's definitely not just academic, it's the theory. Well, as they say, the theory informs the practice and the practice informs the theory. You cannot have it any other way. So that would be my response to the question, ma'am.
Thank you, John. Have you worked directly with the victims and or accused in human trafficking matters and kidnapping matters?
I just want to make sure that I get the question. So I can work directly with human trafficking victims and perpetrators?
Yes, no, that's my question.
With hundreds, man. Literally hundreds. I can go into detail why I give you such a big amount. I will state that again, hundreds over this 22, 23 years. From investigations, a lot of the work that I've done in the field. I can use one example. I mean, there's so many examples to use, man, but I'll just use one example in 2007 when I referred to the Janice Kapora case earlier, and we did 2 trips in April and August 2006. So part of your investigation is you spend time in the field. I've been in brothels as well, been in places where you speak, you work with people, you know when you are working with victims. Part of my research has also included survivors of trafficking. I've done interviews with traffickers, convicted sentenced traffickers. They've spoken to me about things like all manner of detail in terms of decision making, how people are trafficked, why people are trafficked. There's an entire conversation, man, that I'm able to provide there. But to your question, yes, ma'am, I've worked with countless victims of trafficking and perpetrators and convicted traffickers.
Is it fair to suggest that your perspective is more focused on advocating for victims?
My focus is on advocating for victims. Well, I think any reasonable person so firstly, there is a methodical process. Let's talk about research first. I'll just respond to that. So when we talk about the key principles, yes, over the last 23 years, we talk about skills and knowledge, education, experience, and training. When you have all of this data, and the data clearly tells you that trafficking in persons is a heinous crime, clearly tells you that from my own experience, how many victims are harmed, how many survivors of victims of trafficking I've lost personally to suicide. There is no way that a person with my experience and knowledge cannot in one way, shape or form also advocate for victims. It's just not honest, it's not fair, and I think it's the just thing to do. That when advocacy for a victim or a survivor is needed, that as a reasonable person, it's the right thing to do, ma'am.
You do advocate for victims, Doc?
Just repeat that question, ma'am.
From the answer you've given, it is clear that you do advocate for victims.
Okay, so do I advocate, or is there a specific aspect to that that you are maybe referring to? I mean, advocating for victims is a very, very broad question. Advocacy looks differently to different people. So if you could, if I may ask my Lord for that question, just to a little bit clearer in terms of specific angle to advocacy that the defense is alluding to, that would be very helpful.
Thank you, Doc. I'll be more clear. In cases of female trafficking and kidnapping, do you, most of the time, advocate for victims?
Do you mean, just a moment, Dr. Van der Walt, just one moment. Do you mean by that he always sides with the victims? Just to simplify. Because advocacy, as he says, it's a wide term and it encompasses a lot of issues. So maybe be more precise, because it's clear that there's a misunderstanding between the question being posed and the understanding of the witness. Because we don't need to have a long thesis on the broad spectrum. So maybe if you want to be more focused on the question, pinpointed, and then the witness can answer. The way I understand the question is, you want to know whether he takes the sides of victims.
Not in that manner, my Lord. My question is...
Then maybe ask the question so that I can also understand the question, because it's clearly I also don't understand it.
Okay,
thank you.
Doc, did you understand my question?
Well, I'm trying to, man. I'm just going to try and focus on this case. The case that we are here in court today is, the court is charged with a duty to weigh up the interest of, the victim, the society, and the accused person. And, clearly we don't know the whereabouts of Joshlin in this case, but clearly the accused has been found guilty. So, if advocating, if I'm inferring what you mean by advocating, means that highlighting that very, very, very real harm, physical, emotionally, psychological, may have been part of Joshlin's fate, and ordering the court to take that into consideration. That is what I'm conveying here.
Do the court still want me to paraphrase the question?
No, you can ask the questions any way you wish, as long as it's clear. I'm just waiting.
You testify that you didn't personally interview the victim. The victim in this case is Joshlin. Is that correct?
Okay, there's a bit of a break there, ma'am. If you can just repeat that again, I would really appreciate that.
Okay, I'm sorry. You just testify that you did not interview the victim. And the victim in this matter is Joshlin. Is that correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Do you know where the victim is? Do you know the whereabouts of the victims?
Is the question whether I know the whereabouts of Joshlin?
Yes, Doc.
Ma'am, I don't, and I think that is a question that the world is asking at this very moment. And I do hope that we find out sooner than later.
The reason why I'm asking you this question, Doc, is because I'm going to paragraph 12 of your report.
Is that the one on page 17, Mkabayi?
Yes, my lord.
Thank you.
Sorry, my lord, is there a question at the moment?
Yes, Doc. There's a question coming.
Okay. Ma'am, can you please repeat the question?
Doc, I'll pose the question just now.
I'm not sure why Mkabayi of Mkabayi Associates is asking the doctor in America where Joshlin is, or asking him if he has interviewed Joshlin. I think it is very clear to everybody, and I love what the doctor said. That is the question that everybody in the world is asking right now. Do you know whom Mkabayi should have directed that question to? Her own client, okay, to Steffi, because wow, that came out of nowhere. And yeah, I think it's a little bit difficult, the interaction in terms of video, audio. So I hope as well you bear with me. I tried to clean it up too, but this is the best that we can get. So I'm going to start the next video with, paragraph 12 and where Mkabayi is going with this. So make sure you go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, share the video so that we all get to understand and find out what exactly happened to Joshlin, where Mkabayi is going with this cross-examination. And I'll catch you, of course, on my next upload. Thanks for watching. Bye.